This is one of the topics I've been waiting to talk about for a very, very long time.
This is such a hard topic to get into because there's just so much going on, and it's really not that clear what causes a lot of these things, and our body of evidence continues to grow, but it's just so difficult to treat, so difficult to get under control. And also, I feel like every person I've ever treated with this seems to respond differently to different types of medication. And so for this particular one, please bear with your dermatologist. Please bear with your products. This is going to be a trial and error type of condition.
Yeah, it's so highly individualized. And that's why I really wanted to talk about it, because I think it's portrayed, and it, on our end, it really is one disease spectrum. But in my mind, I really consider each of the subtypes of this topic as almost just different entities, because different things seem to trigger it. Different things definitely treat it. One size does not fit all for this.
Absolutely. So what are we talking about? We're talking about rosacea, the massive topic of rosacea. Sometimes you notice redness in your face. Sometimes you notice pimples on the sort of central part of your face. Sometimes it affects your eyes. Sometimes it makes your nose much larger. So there's all these different kind of forms of it, but the sort of overarching theme is something called rosacea.
So we're going to talk about each of these major 4 subgroups of rosacea. And look, there's more. We're not going to talk about those. We're just talking about the major 4 groups of rosacea, a little bit about what's going on with each of these types, and then also really try to focus in on treating each one individually, uniquely, and targeting the things that cause it.
Here we go. Okay, so let's start. What are the 4 main types of rosacea?
All right, 4 main types. We're going to spend the most time on the first 2. The first one, Erythematotelangiectatic Rosacea. What?
So I'm so glad. So the reason why I just asked him what the 4 types were was because I knew I was going to struggle through that one. So I was like, well, maybe let me turf it to him and see him struggle through it. But he did pretty good. Isn't there a T in there? Erythemato?
Oh, crap. No, forget it. Erythematotelangiectatic Rosacea.
All right.
Maybe.
Type 1. So what does that one look like?
All right. The Erythematotelangiectatic Rosacea, long word, vascular rosacea. So you're going to see prominent redness. The vessels are dilated. There's a background of redness that becomes persistent, underlying dilated vessels.
So redness, definitely for that one. And then the next type is?
The next type is the Papulopustular variant, the one that looks like acne.
Looks like acne, but it's sort of in a different distribution. And some of your historically hero ingredients for acne, such as retinoids, can sometimes make this type of rosacea or bumps on the face worse. And so important to get the correct diagnosis on this one, but it tends to affect more of the central face and sometimes can even cause thickening of the skin and things like that. But ultimately, Papulopustular Rosacea type 2.
Yeah, and the age group's a little different too. Oftentimes it's like post-adolescence, middle of adulthood. Comes on, it's like, I've never had acne before. Why the heck am I getting it now? Maybe it's not acne. It's probably not malassezia folliculitis. Could be. It's this time rosacea.
Exactly. So type 3, what's another third type?
Type 3, Phymatous oil gland rosacea.
So thickening of the skin. These are the people that you see that kind of get those much larger noses and can kind of be a little bit disfiguring of the Phymatous form of rosacea.
It's very, very discouraging for people, very difficult to actually. You can also get individually enlarged oil glands throughout the face and an overall greasy complexion with this too.
So it is my belief that Dr. Maxfield has Phymatous rosacea. He refuses to accept that fact, but I am encouraging him to seek treatment for Phymatous rosacea as I am an expert diagnostician.
But he offers no treatment, so what a worthless friend.
So then the 4th type of rosacea.
Fourth type of rosacea. This one's really important, guys. Look, 4th type of rosacea is ocular rosacea, eye rosacea. Really important because, mild, moderate, severe. But the severe type, it actually can lead to difficulty seeing. It can lead to some real damage of the eye. So this one goes missed because it's really not huge. It's not part of the skin components. And so a lot of times people with this just don't even realize that it's a part of rosacea, and they may take a long time to seek care.
Right, and you get a lot of redness, dryness in the eyes from this as well. So definitely important to seek treatment for this as well.
Okay, the first one we'll talk about, we're going to spend a good amount of time on this one, the vascular rosacea. What's causing it? What's going on? The vascular rosacea. What's causing it? What's going on?
Yeah. So what is causing it? What's going on? So important. These are the things that you're going to want to avoid. So importantly, there's kind of two factors here. There's almost this neural cause, and then there's this vascular component as well, and they kind of work interchangeably. And so the nerve sort of being hyperreactive in this area, plus the vasculature also being hyperreactive in this area, kind of leads to this dilated appearance of redness that's in the central face. And you can actually see visible blood vessels as this sort of progresses. So initially starts off as redness, but then can progress to just these visible and persistent blood vessels on the surface of the skin.
Yeah, so the key important thing here is it starts with that transient flushing. So you're the type of person that you get flushing that lasts for a really prolonged period of time, like 30 minutes after you get nervous, you're blushing. You drank some alcohol, spicy food, you did all at once on a dinner date, but you're like stuck. You're just red for the next 30 minutes, but then it goes away. But then it becomes persistent. You get a background of redness. The dilated blood vessels come on over a period of years and they stay.
Okay, so for this redness form of rosacea that's through the cheeks, what are the things that we have to avoid? Because that's probably something that I like to talk a lot about is things that you want to avoid that are potentially making this thing worse. So what's the most important thing you would say?
There are so many things that trigger this. Most important thing, it may actually even be sun.
That's what I would say, the sun, right? So just because I always want to plug sunscreen at some point, this is really important actually, and this is something that I actually didn't know. I knew that the sun caused rosacea to be worse, but what I didn't actually know about was the role of UVB.
Yeah. So UVB, and this is something I feel like is very under talked about. UVB actually in these patients can stimulate angiogenesis. What that means, it stimulates the growth of new blood vessels.
So UVB from the sun, UVB radiation, ultraviolet radiation, can stimulate your blood vessels to proliferate, get larger, spread roots ultimately, and that leads to rosacea. And so actually we do know directly that UVB from the sun is playing a role in your rosacea. So very important sun protection. Something that's a broad spectrum sunscreen is going to be very, very important.
And then avoiding irritating things, especially for this group of people, this group of rosacea.
So for rosacea, I would say treat your skin like you have sensitive skin ultimately.
Definitely. That's a great point.
You really want to just kind of basically avoid anything that somebody with eczema or atopic dermatitis would want to avoid. You want to be very cautious with your skincare products because we know that irritation can inflame this issue. So you want to avoid things like fragrance. You want to avoid things like irritating or drying alcohols like your isopropyl alcohol or your
vodka
or vodka.
But you do actually, you do. If you drink, it flushes. Actually, if you consume alcohol, it will make it worse.
That's true, actually. So you also want to not consume alcohol, or just be aware that when you consume alcohol, it can cause flushing and make these things worse. And so
mechanical scrubs,
alcohol, spicy food as well can make it worse. That's something like I probably would never give up if I had rosacea. I would just continue to do it forever. I order everything extra spicy. I eat the Flaming Hot Cheetos every day. I'm eating hot fries every day. I get Flaming Hot everything at this point. So what are some irritating ingredients in skincare products that you would want to avoid that could potentially make this type of rosacea worse?
Long list, but a short version of it. We have witch hazel, we have camphor, menthol, eucalyptus oil, peppermint oil. It's kind of a common theme. These things smell pretty strong. They'll have that. A lot of them have a minty kind of sensation. And look, it's not like that's bad inherently. It's just for people with rosacea, it can irritate it and perpetuate the underlying cause.
Right. So these things tend to be pro-inflammatory or tend to make redness ultimately worse, and you'd want to avoid them. So interestingly, it appears that every male targeted skincare line is loaded with this kind of stuff. It has either tons of menthol, peppermint, eucalyptus. Like for some reason, every men's skincare line has to smell like a mint. Isn't that like a thing? Why is that happening? Listen up, skincare brands. You need to stop putting menthol, eucalyptus, peppermint, anything minty in your men's targeted skincare lines.
All right. You know what? Also, though, we have to talk about pH balance. And so another thing with this, obviously the overarching theme for this vascular rosacea, you have sensitive skin. pH balance is actually important when you're picking a cleanser. A lot of these beauty cleansers actually are pretty good. Your skin lives at a pH of about 5.4. It's actually a little acidic. Soap is extremely alkali. It has a really high pH. Bar soap, pH greater than like 8, 9. So pick a gentle, mild cleanser so you don't get irritation that's going to exacerbate this redness.
So as far as a cleanser goes, simple, gentle cleanser, something that's not going to irritate your rosacea or make it worse. It doesn't necessarily need to treat your rosacea at this point. You just want to use something that's going to be very gentle. So just 2 recommendations I have for you. CeraVe Hydrating Cleanser, Hydrating Facial Cleanser is going to do great for most skin types. And the Vanicream cleanser as well. So Vanicream, very gentle brand. Dermatologists love Vanicream, so also a good option. Gentle cleanser at this point. You don't want anything overly stripping. Even if you have more of that acne type of rosacea where you see bumps on the skin, still gentle cleanser is going to still be my recommendation for you. So there are a lot of treatments out there, marketed at people for rosacea, but sort of the main ones that I kind of want to recommend for you all as a good starting point for the redness aspect. And the redness tends to be one of the hardest things to treat because a lot of times, like I said, it's those vessels, and sometimes you need to ablate or get rid of those vessels with a laser to really see a huge improvement. But to try to help a little bit with the redness, I have 2 recommendations for you. One would be the Ocular Rosacea product. And the reason that I like this one, it contains licorice and niacinamide. Licorice is very good for redness, rosacea, inflammation, and niacinamide also very good for redness, inflammation as well. Also, it contains allantoin, which is a soothing and calming ingredient that can also help with redness. And the other thing I like about this product is that it contains chromium oxide greens, which give you almost an immediate benefit with your redness because it serves as more of a concealer of the redness. And why is this? We got to bring it back to the color wheel.
Color wheel classic. Y'all know I like to paint. If you don't, I do. I actually like to paint.
Yeah, he's actually a really good painter, it turns out. Ultimately, on the color wheel spectrum, we know that opposites cancel each other out. Well, what's the opposite of red?
Green.
So if you use a green concealer or something with greens in it, it will help to offset some of that redness almost immediately. This product actually contains green chromium oxides. It's going to help to cancel out a little bit of that redness. So it's going to be very good, especially for the daytime. So you would use that after you cleanse. You'd put this Ocular Rosacea on, and then you would put your sunscreen or moisturizer on afterwards. My second product recommendation here is going to be the Cetaphil Redness Relief.
The Cetaphil product, all right, it has some of the similar things. It has niacinamide, it has the licorice, but this one also has caffeine. It's actually a nice component to help shrink up blood vessels. And I know there's a little controversy. Does it shrink them up? Does it dilate them? My personal opinion is that it actually works better to constrict the blood vessels.
So now it has 3 ingredients, very good for redness. This one's also fragrance free, and so it's not going to really irritate your skin. Like we said, we want to avoid things that are going to make this worse. And so definitely a very good product for that. Also has some other soothing ingredients like allantoin and ceramides, and ceramides help to kind of restore that sort of injured moisture barrier that you have. So 2 product recommendations there for this type of rosacea.
Whew, that's one. That was one part of rosacea. Okay, so we talked about the vascular rosacea. We talked about what causes it. We talked about what triggers it, what you can stop doing to help trigger it, and what you can do to treat it. Moving on to number 2. Remember, we said we're going to spend most of our time on 1 and 2. 2 is the acneiform version. 2 is Papulopustular Rosacea.
Little bumps in the center of the face, looks like acne, Papulopustular Rosacea. What causes this?
All right, so this is where the inflammatory component of rosacea kind of comes in. It's a lot of baseline inflammation that may be triggered actually by, in part, with a genetic component, mites. Yeah, you got mites on your skin. Y'all knew that, though.
You guys knew because we told you about the mites before. So there's something called the Demodex mite that seems to play a role. We've actually found that treating this Demodex mite or getting rid of this Demodex mite can actually get rid of your rosacea in some people. And so the Demodex mite is playing a role in the inflammation that is causing rosacea in some people.
This type of rosacea is one of the most amenable to treatment. Actually, this one responds pretty well to a lot of different treatment options. The most important thing we can tell you with this one and what you're doing to treat it is it looks like acne, and as Dr. Shaw said, vitamin A does not help as much for this.
So your retinol can cause a lot of irritation with this. So you want to be careful with those. Can they work? Can they be effective? They can be, but
yeah.
You want to maybe kind of go more on the gentle side, try something a little bit more gentle for this type of rosacea. This is the one that also responds really well to your prescription medications as well, your oral antibiotics and things like that.
Yep, responds really well. But yeah, you have rosacea, you still have sensitive skin, so those vitamin A's that do great in acne, you may not tolerate it. I really want to give you something that's going to like treat these mites, but I found out and was really disappointed that there's no over-the-counter cream, anti-scabies cream, anti-mite cream that's really available to you. So we had to dig, we had to look what can help you, and we found the old, tried, tested, true, shrewd sulfur.
Sulfur. So sulfur is probably one of the most underrated skincare ingredients that exists. It is very beneficial in acne, very beneficial in rosacea. So sulfur actually has a dual purpose. I love dual purpose. It just helps when you don't know what you're treating. No, but sulfur, excellent ingredient. Very effective for rosacea. Why is this?
It has anti-inflammatory properties inherently, and it also has some effect at reducing the mites on your skin.
So some of my over-the-counter recommendations for this would be Rosacea. Rosacea contains sulfur in it, so it's going to be effective for this type of rosacea. The only kind of downside to this is it does contain propylene glycol, which is actually a pretty common allergen in people. And so if you do have sensitive skin, you definitely want to stay away from something that contains propylene glycol. But the sulfur is something that you can find over the counter that's very effective. They also have sulfur bar soaps that they sell on Amazon. We'll link a couple products below that's going to have this sulfur in it, but sulfur is going to be a hero ingredient in this type of acne.
Yeah, absolutely.
And this type of rosacea. And this type of acne rosacea. So then my second hero ingredient here, which is probably one of my favorite ingredients of all time.
Mine too.
No, it's mine.
No, yeah, but I've also...
No, like
It has two levers.
This is mine.
No, it's mine. No, I loved it before he even knew.
So, azelaic acid.
Azelaic
acid is a dicarboxylic acid. Very, very, very effective for acne. Very effective for dark spots. Very effective for this type of rosacea. So it has multiple benefits. It really should be something you own in your medicine cabinet at home or skincare cabinet or whatever. So we'll link a couple products below on the azelaic acid, but The Ordinary makes one, Paula's Choice makes one, and Naturium actually just came out with one as well that I've been testing out that I like a lot as well. So azelaic acid is going to be the active ingredient that you look for. Over-the-counter percentages are less than what's available prescription-wise, but you can still see some benefit with the over-the-counter options.
Now, one that's an interesting thought is tea tree oil. So tea tree oil, we talk about this occasionally because it does have some modest antibacterial, anti-yeast properties, maybe some anti-mite properties. It's been tested and tried against scabies. No, you don't have scabies on your face. Calm down. Scabies. And it also has been tested against the Demodex mites. A really nice study actually compared it to a lot of different products, including just pure alcohol, and it is concentration dependent. So tea tree oil can also be an allergen. It can be an irritant, but it can have some benefit at getting rid of some of these mites on your skin. Unfortunately, the stronger, the better, and the more likely it is to probably irritate you as well. So take that with a grain of salt.
So it's an option. So just be aware of that, that if you want to look for some alternative treatments, still not my favorite choice, tea tree oil, but it does have some benefit in this type of rosacea.
3 is...
So Phymatous Rosacea, really no topical over-the-counter treatment is going to be too effective for this. You're going to follow that same sort of principles where you want to avoid certain triggers. But at the end of the day, some of these ingredients can help. Niacinamide can help probably reduce the appearance of the pores, decrease oil production. But overall, you're going to want to get some prescription medications to try to get this under control before it gets too disfiguring.
Yeah, it's basically oil glands that continuously enlarge. They just don't stop. And then there's actually a late stage of this. It's like a fibrotic stage where the tissue itself becomes really thick. So this is something you want to, if possible, even get a handle on a little bit earlier. So 4, ocular rosacea. This is actually kind of a subtle thing because it can stand alone or it can be present with the other components of rosacea that we talked about. It can present with recurrent styes in your eyes. So those little bumps that can either be painful or not, they're kind of on the eyelid margin. It can present with a little scaly crustiness right where your eyelashes meet the eyelid margin. Or it can present pretty classically with like a gritty sensation or like a foreign body sensation. It feels like you kind of have sand in your eye. So if you have sand in your eye, but you don't, and you have some of these other things, you could have ocular rosacea. And if you do,
then you're going to want to see your dermatologist or your ophthalmologist for this because it can affect your vision ultimately. And also, you don't really want to be putting things near your eyes that aren't safe for that area. So you definitely, this is the type of thing where definitely avoidance of triggers, avoiding the sun, spicy foods, alcohol are going to help with this. But ultimately this is going to need to be treated with prescription medications. Of course, as always, if you fail these over-the-counter options, and like we said, we always try to give you guys the tools to make the best treatment decisions at home. So these are some of our recommendations. If these fail you, then definitely come see a dermatologist. We have a ton of prescription medications for rosacea that can definitely get you going in the right direction. It may take only just 1 or 2 visits to try to get you going down the right path, but we definitely have a lot of tools to treat rosacea.
But yeah, remember, this is highly individualized. I mean, all 4 of these things behave differently. They kind of counteract each other. So it's a lot of trial and error, like you mentioned early on, to get you under control.
A couple sunscreen recommendations for rosacea. Probably my 2 kind of go-to ones for this are going to be, my Elta MD UV Clear, which I'm just a big fan of, contains zinc oxide. This one also has niacinamide, which is really good for redness. So Elta MD UV Clear, and then Color Science has a redness correcting one. It's very expensive. So it does contain zinc oxide, titanium dioxide. So it also has niacinamide that helps with the redness. And lastly, it contains that chromium oxides, green, which help to kind of balance out that color. So expensive but effective option for people with redness. So big topic, more to come on rosacea, but this is a huge topic, but we get so many questions about it, so we figured we would put this together for you. We hope you find it helpful. Please ask any questions below. Thank you for tuning in, and thank you for your trust and support. We really do appreciate it.
We do. Thank you. Mic drop.
Don't do that. I just bought this.